My mother lifted the stack of glossy VIP passes like they were sacred offerings, handing them out one by one to each grandchild with a radiant smile. 60 guests watched from linen-covered patio tables, nodding along to her performance of generosity. Cameras came out, phones recorded. Everyone adored Queen Margaret, the woman who never missed a chance to display her charity. Then came my son's turn. 7-year-old Rowan stepped forward, small hands clasped behind his back, face bright with the same hope every child had shown. My mother looked down at the final envelope, his envelope, then drew it back with 2 perfectly manicured fingers and said, loud and clear, "Sorry, no kid without a real father gets one." A ripple went through the patio. Forks paused mid-air. Someone gasped. Rowan froze. I felt something inside me fracture, the kind of break that doesn't make a sound but echoes for years. My name is Cassandra Hale. I'm 33, a paralegal in Charleston, and a single mom to the sweetest boy who has ever existed. I'm the quiet daughter, the dependable one, the one my mother never feared because she believed silence meant weakness. She believed wrong. Rowan's shoulders curled inward, chin dipping toward the ground as whispers spread across the tables. The other kids shifted awkwardly, clutching their passes. My mother stepped aside like nothing had happened, already turning to pose for a photo with her gift display. I knelt beside my son, placing my hands on his arms. "You didn't do anything wrong," I whispered. But the sting had already landed. You could see it in the way he blinked too fast, fighting tears because he'd been taught, by her, that crying made him small. My mother wanted an audience. She got one. She always planned her celebrations like theater productions. Custom napkins embroidered with MA70. A string quartet playing classical covers of Taylor Swift songs. Servers carrying trays of champagne that cost more than my monthly rent. The guest list was curated with all the delicacy of a diplomatic dinner. Church board members, country club elites, longtime donors, people she wanted to impress. She expected applause for her generosity, but cruelty slipped through more easily than kindness. Grand gestures were easy for Margaret Audley. Empathy was not. As the event continued, she floated through the crowd, laughing, touching arms, accepting compliments about her energy and elegance. She'd waited months to shine tonight. And yet, every time she glanced my way, her eyes tightened, not with regret, but with victory. She believed she'd put me in my place. She thought shaming my son would secure her status, remind everyone that she controlled the narrative, that her word was the law in this world she'd carefully crafted, but power built on humiliation is fragile. And tonight, she had exposed the first crack. I led Rowan inside the venue's side hall, away from the curious stares where he finally let a single tear roll down his cheek. He wiped it quickly, embarrassed. "Grandma doesn't like me," he whispered. My heart clenched. "She doesn't get to decide your worth," I said. "Ever." He nodded, but kids don't understand politics or power. They understand fairness, love, safety. And he had just been told, publicly, that he was lesser. I hugged him until his breathing steadied, but my own stayed cold, tight, sharpened by something I hadn't felt in years: resolve. For decades, my mother controlled everything: who spoke, who stayed silent, who mattered, who didn't. But humiliating an innocent child, using fatherless as a weapon, that wasn't just cruelty, it was a declaration of war. And she had no idea who she'd just provoked. Because while Margaret basked in attention, I stepped outside and found someone leaning against the garden wall, someone no one ever remembered, no one ever invited on stage, no one ever credited. My Aunt Lorraine. Her eyes met mine with a silent question. I answered with a single sentence: "It's time." She smiled. A slow, knowing smile. and the fall of Margaret Audley began before the candles on her birthday cake had even cooled. Aunt Lorraine and I hadn't spoken more than a few polite sentences in the last decade. Not because we disliked each other, but because my mother worked tirelessly to ensure no one in the family got too close to the sister she'd buried under gossip. According to Margaret's curated history, Lorraine was unstable, dramatic, a troublemaker, jealous of my success. But standing beside her now, outside the glittering patio, where music swelled and laughter floated over the garden, I saw none of the things my mother had preached. Lorraine looked calm, patient, observant, a woman who learned long ago that some storms burn themselves out if you wait long enough. "Rough night?" she asked softly. I let out a humorless breath. She humiliated Rowan, and she did it on purpose. Lorraine's eyes sharpened. "Then she's worse than she was." That made me pause. "You mean she used to be like this?" Lorraine let out a low laugh, not amused, but worn. "Cassandra, your mother has been like this since we were teenagers. She just learned to disguise it with pearls and philanthropy." I leaned against the stone wall, suddenly feeling like a child again, trying to understand a woman who had always spoken in riddles and ruled our home like a kingdom she was terrified of losing. "She said he didn't deserve a ticket because he doesn't have a father," I whispered. Lorraine closed her eyes. "She's been weaponizing shame her whole life, first against me, then your dad, then you, now your son." She opened her eyes again. It was only a matter of time. The anger that had been simmering all night solidified into something sharper, clearer. "Lorraine, she needs to face consequences." Her lips curved into a slow, deliberate smile. "Good. I was waiting for you to say that." Just then, the patio doors swung open and two church ladies stumbled out, whispering loudly about my poor parenting choices and how Margaret shouldn't have to babysit other people's mistakes. My hands curled into fists. Lorraine leaned in, voice low. "Your mother's power isn't money. It's image, status, applause. She feeds on being seen as perfect. Threaten that, and she has nothing." I swallowed hard. "What do we do?" Her expression turned calculating, almost surgical. "We don't fight her in the open. She thrives on public battles. We strike quietly, legally, precisely." Lorraine reached into her coat and pulled out a slim, worn portfolio. "I've been keeping records," she said calmly. "Financial irregularities in the church fund, donations that never made it to the charities she bragged about, under-the-table payments to maintain her country club position. And the kicker?" She tapped the folder. "She used your name on a financial document 3 years ago." My stomach dropped. "What kind of document?" "A guarantor form," she said. "Small amount. Enough to be overlooked, but illegal all the same." The patio lights flickered behind us as if the universe itself had heard the confession. "She used me?" I whispered. "She used everyone," Lorraine replied. "But you... She assumed you'd never fight back." Heat spread up my throat. Anger, betrayal, clarity. "What exactly are you suggesting?" Lorraine smiled. "We file a formal ethics complaint with the church board. That triggers a mandatory audit, which exposes the mismanaged funds, which leads to suspension. Meanwhile, you contact the financial institution she involved you with and file a fraud declaration. They freeze the related accounts while they investigate." "And the country club?" I asked. "Oh," Lorraine said lightly. "They'll distance themselves the second scandal touches her name. They always do." I stared at the folder, at the woman my mother had taught me to avoid. "You kept all this? Why?" Lorraine's expression softened. "Because I knew one day you'd need it, and because your mother made sure I never got justice. But you're brave enough to take it." For the first time that night, I felt something other than anger. I felt aligned, supported, seen. Inside, Margaret raised her champagne glass and announced, "To family!" The crowd cheered, but outside, under the quiet garden lights, I whispered the beginning of her end. "Let's do it!" The first domino fell 3 days after the birthday brunch. It arrived in the form of a polite, almost apologetic voicemail from the Charleston First Baptist Church Ethics Committee. They were following up on recent concerns regarding financial inconsistencies linked to Mrs. Margaret Audley's stewardship of charitable funds. A mandatory audit was scheduled. Attendance required. I could practically hear my mother's pearls clatter as she replayed the message. By noon, she was calling me. 8 missed calls in 15 minutes. I didn't answer. She didn't leave a voicemail either. She never did. Margaret Audley didn't ask for explanations. She demanded them. At work, I opened my email to find a confirmation from the bank. Fraud investigation initiated. Accounts temporarily frozen pending verification of guarantor signature. Legal. Procedural. Quiet. Every step designed to protect my rights and nothing more. That evening, Aunt Lorraine and I sat at her kitchen table, a modest rental filled with second-hand furniture that felt warmer than my mother's mansion ever had. She opened a binder thick with notes, tabs in every color. "Once the audit begins," Lorraine said, sipping sweet tea, "the church will suspend her immediately. She won't be able to run her fundraising committee. That's her crown jewel." I nodded slowly. "What about the country club?" Lorraine gave a sly smile. "Clubs like that value one thing above all: image. The second they realize your mother's name is being whispered in all the wrong rooms, they'll distance themselves." As if summoned by prophecy, my phone buzzed. Aunt Lorraine lifted a brow. "Go on, look." It was a text from one of Margaret's closest friends, a woman who'd once praised her charity work like it was holy scripture. "Did you hear what's going on with your mom? I hope the rumors aren't true. So embarrassing." There it was. The shift. The first crack in Margaret's porcelain reputation. Because it wasn't about truth. It was about optics. And the optics were now bleeding. 3 days later, another email arrived. "Your fraud claim has been validated. Funds will remain restricted pending full investigation." Which meant any account linked to that unauthorized guarantor form couldn't be touched. Not by Margaret, not by her church, not by her committees. The financial chokehold she used to control everyone? It had snapped shut on her instead. Word spread quickly through her circles. At the Thursday luncheon, where she usually held court at the head of the table, not a single woman asked to sit beside her. One even kindly suggested she take some time away from leadership to reflect. Mother called me again that night, this time leaving a voicemail, her voice sharp and trembling. "Cassandra, whatever nonsense you've stirred up, undo it. This isn't funny. I'm being humiliated. Fix it." I listened to the message twice, not because I felt guilty, but because hearing her panic felt surreal. This was the same woman who once told me crying was a poor woman's hobby. The same woman who told my son he didn't deserve a ticket because of the man who left before he was born. And now she was cracking. The next blow came from a direction neither of us expected. The regional newspaper published a small but potent article. "Community Figure Faces Audit Over Mismanaged Funds." It didn't name her directly, but everyone knew. In Charleston, descriptions were almost as good as signatures. Her phone erupted. Her committees panicked. Her club revoked her upcoming brunch reservation, pending clarity. Margaret tried to rally. She hosted an emergency dinner to try to gather allies. 12 guests were invited. Only one showed up. And that guest came only to ask if she planned to step down before things turned uglier. My mother's empire wasn't collapsing. It was evaporating. Finally, on a warm Friday afternoon, the church officially suspended her from all leadership roles, effective immediately, citing discovered discrepancies of serious concern. She arrived home in tears, real ones this time. I know because she called Lorraine, not me. "She's unraveling," Lorraine said after hanging up. "But remember, this isn't revenge for the sake of revenge. This is accountability, something she's avoided her whole life." I took a slow breath, because she was right. This wasn't about a birthday ticket. This was about a lifetime of weaponized shame. Margaret spent decades building a throne out of judgments and favors and carefully curated superiority. Now she was learning what happened when a throne had no foundation. When power depends on cruelty, it crumbles the moment cruelty is exposed. And the final collapse was still ahead. 3 weeks after the birthday brunch, Charleston felt like it had shifted on its axis. My mother had always moved through this city as if she owned every brick, every committee seat, every pearl-gloved handshake. But now, people whispered her name with caution, not admiration. The church audit concluded on a quiet Tuesday morning. I was packing Rowan's lunch when my phone rang with the verdict. Procedural violations confirmed, immediate removal from all leadership roles, barred from managing church funds, corrective training required. For a long moment, I just stood there, staring at the refrigerator door. Not celebrating, not shaking, just breathing. Something I didn't realize I'd been doing shallowly for years. Within an hour, the church board delivered the news to Margaret. She didn't take it gracefully. Someone captured her raising her voice in the hallway, demanding loyalty, insisting the audit was beneath her status. The 30-second clip hit local social media before she even reached her car. Her perfect veneer slipped just long enough for Charleston to glimpse the woman beneath the pearls. And once the spell broke, it shattered completely. By Thursday, the country club suspended her membership pending review. 5 of her closest friends unfollowed her online. Her weekly luncheon group postponed indefinitely. Even the charity she'd chaired for a decade quietly removed her name from its website. No announcement, no explanation. Just gone. Money couldn't save her. Not with her accounts under investigation. And reputation? She'd burned through that faster than any resource she ever controlled. Aunt Lorraine updated me daily. "Your mother is calling everyone," she said one evening. "But no one wants to be tied to her right now. She's radioactive." That wasn't joy I felt. It was justice settling into place. The final shift came a week later when Margaret showed up at my door. Gone were the pearls, the tailored dresses, the posture that hovered an inch above the rest of us. She stood on my porch in flats and a wrinkled blouse, hands twisting in front of her. "Cassandra," she said softly, "I need to speak with you." I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. I wouldn't let Rowan hear this. Her voice trembled. "Did you do all of this?" I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I studied her. The woman who raised me to believe silence was politeness, humility was obedience, and shame was a tool meant to shape people. "You hurt my son," I said, "and you did it knowingly." She flinched. "I didn't think—" "That's the problem," I cut in gently. "You never think cruelty counts when you're the one delivering it." She opened her mouth, then shut it again, struggling for words she'd never had to use. Finally, she whispered, "What do you want from me?" "From her? Nothing. From my future? Everything." "I want distance," I said, "and I want Rowan safe from your judgments. If you can't treat him with kindness, then you won't see him." Her eyes glistened, but instead of apologizing, she stiffened, as if pride was the last piece of her identity holding her together. She nodded once, turned, and walked down the steps without a goodbye. I watched her go, not triumphantly, not bitterly, just with closure. A few weeks later, Aunt Lorraine and I met at a small cafe downtown. Rowan sat nearby, drawing a superhero with a cape twice his size. Lorraine sipped her coffee, watching him with a soft smile. "You protected him," she said. "That's more than our mother ever did for us." "I didn't want revenge," I murmured. "I wanted accountability." "Both can coexist," she replied, "but only one leaves you free." I looked at Rowan, bright, safe, whole, and felt something inside me settle. Margaret's empire hadn't been taken from her. She'd built it on brittle foundations. All I did was stop holding it up. Sunlight spilled across the cafe patio, warm and forgiving. Rowan ran over, waving his drawing proudly. "Look, Mommy, he's brave," I smiled. "Just like you." And as he wrapped his arms around me, I understood the truth. Legacies don't crumble because someone speaks up. They crumble because someone spent years silencing the wrong voices. My mother lost the illusion she valued more than family. I gained a future defined by honesty, boundaries, and a child who would grow up knowing his worth wasn't up for debate. The fall of her kingdom wasn't my victory. My victory was this moment, quiet, steady, unshakable. A life where my son and I finally stood on solid ground.